So, how can immigrants and international students build credit in Canada?
Building credit in Canada is relatively easy once you start. And the computers decide, are we going to give this person credit? And that's where your credit score comes in. So there's different factors that affect your score and that you can help improve your score.
When should they file the taxes and what documents are required?
So first of all, the documents that are required. We need 4 things to do your taxes. School, very expensive. Buying a house, very expensive. A car, very expensive.
A plan for emergencies in case I lose my job or face unexpected incident like death, disability, or critical illness.
The debts don't go away. The payments still have to be made.
Struggling with dates in Canada, and what options are available for managing or reducing it?
So managing debt is all about understanding how much debt you have and how much income you have. And there's only 2 things you can do to balance that budget. You could make more money or you could spend less money.
Alright, hello, namaste, bonjour, welcome to the show. You are listening to CKLU 96.7, your station, and you're listening to us all over the world by cklu.ca. This is Beyond the Borders with Arjun, Season 1, Episode 15. Today's guest is John Cockburn, an AFCPE-certified financial counselor with 20 years of experience, ladies and gentlemen, focusing on helping low-income families, newcomers, immigrants, and international students here in Greater Sudbury, achieving financial stability. Since moving to Sudbury from Chapleau in 2016, John has been a passionate advocate for financial empowerment, coordinator at the Sudbury Community Centre, a non-profit institution serving the community for 50 years. John provides essential services like budgeting advice, repayment strategy, credit educations, and assistance with government funds. The center also provides free tax filing through the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program, that is CVITP, and helps low-income households reduce hydro costs through the Ontario Electricity Support Program, that is OESP. John also leads the new Desjardins microloan program, offering zero interest loans for those facing unexpected financial hardships. So, ladies and gentlemen, join us as we explore John's inspiring work and how financial empowerment is transforming lives in community and the real difference he is making in the lives of people in our community. Please welcome my guest for today, Mr. John Cockburn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for coming in. And without any further ado, let's jump into the first question. You moved to Sudbury in 2016, and you have lived and worked as a financial counselor for over 20 years. It's been more than 2 decades. So what are some of the most common financial challenges that low-income individuals, newcomers, immigrants, and international students face, and how do you help them overcome those hurdles? I want to begin from there.
So I think that the biggest hurdles with anybody, whether they're on low income or international students, immigrants, newcomers, is just having enough money to make ends meet. You have to buy food, you have to have a place to live, you have to be able to get around the city, supplies for school or for your children's school or whatever. It's having enough money to pay for all the different things that are your necessities of life. And that's what we try to focus on, is creating a budget with our clients so that they can meet the demands of their lifestyle and meet the demands of their creditors. Ultimately, there's only 2 things you can do to balance a budget. When we say balance a budget, we want that the money coming into your house equals the money going out. Sure. We're not overspending, and we maybe have some money left over. There's only 2 things you can do to balance that budget. You could make more money, or you could spend less money. There's no magic wand, there's no special formula. It's one of those 2 things. And for most people, if you could make more money, you would be. If you could get a better job that paid more than you're getting paid now, and enjoy that job and could do it well, you would probably move to that job. If I went to you and said, Arjun, could you come work for me at my radio station? I'm going to pay you 3 times what you're getting paid now. You would probably move your program to my radio station. Of course, it would make financial sense. So if we could make more money, we would be. And that's probably not the easiest decision. So the next thing we have to do is look at spending less money. And that's where the budget comes in, understanding how we're spending our money and where we can maximize the effectiveness of the money that we have. Now, over recent years, since about 2019, 2020, the cost of everything has skyrocketed. Food has gotten more expensive. Rent
Absolutely.
has doubled and tripled in the city. And so it's becoming increasingly more difficult to make ends meet while still having money left over for the fun things that we like to do, like go to the movies, go out with friends, have dinner out, or go for drinks or something like that. So the cornerstone, the building block of everything where we start is having a solid, sound budget. I tell people your budget is your roadmap to where you want to go financially. Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? What do you want to achieve? And in order to do that, we have to be smart about our money and learn to manage it properly. And that's one of the things that we do at my agency, where we help people do that for free. Come in and see us as little or as often as you have to. Our service is client driven, so we're taking our cues and we're letting the client take the lead into telling us where they want to go and how best to get there. Our option is to present options, present possibilities, and discuss the good and the bad, the pros and the cons of all the options that are out there.
But still, people are unaware about this. I'm going to talk about this. The Sudbury Community Service Centre has been serving the community for over 50 years. Can you tell us about some of the key programs you offer, like free tax filing and the OESP, that is like Ontario Electricity Support Program, and how a real difference for the families it's
Okay.
making? Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of the general consensus at my work is we want to help our clients maximize the money that they have. And one of the ways to do that is to help them get more money, right? I said one of the ways is to make more money. So number one is income tax filing. You have to file your income tax in Canada. That's the law. You're supposed to do that. But there are many benefits to filing. Even if you haven't worked, even if you don't have an income, if you're an international student and not working, you can still get money from the government in the form of credits and benefits by filing your taxes. So for instance, in Ontario, if you're living in Ontario, and Canada, of course, you get the GST credit, where for filing your taxes this year, your GST would be $345 for a single individual for the year. And then by living in Ontario, you can file and get a minimum of $360 for your Trillium credit. And that credit can easily double or more by claiming rent or property taxes. So we want to make sure we maximize that. And then now, since 2018, there's a new credit in Ontario called the Climate Action Incentive, but everybody calls it the carbon tax, which this year would be $540. So we're already looking at over $1,000 a year just to file your taxes. The funny thing about taxes is no one ever tells you how to do it. It's not something that's taught in school. It's something you have to learn on your own, and it can be very challenging, can be very daunting for a lot of people, especially newcomers coming to Canada, having to navigate a new system that they know nothing about. So that's why we're there to help you through every step of the way. Right now our focus is on low-income individuals, but helping them maximize that and get the taxes right. We also have other programs at the agency, like the Ontario Energy Support Program, OESP, where if you're, again, a low-income individual, we can help you apply to get a credit on your hydro bill every month. So we understand that hydro is very expensive, especially if you're heating with hydro up in the north, like where we are. The heating costs can really skyrocket in the winter months. So helping get a credit on your bill every month so that bill is less of a burden to you, then we can help you achieve that through the program that we offer. Other programs that we have is the micro loan program, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit, as well as the taxes, and then the budgeting program, where we help you manage the money that you have, helping you understand how you're spending your money. I always tell my clients, it's not my job to tell you how to spend your money. My job is to help you understand how you spend your money so that you can decide which choices have to be made and which things have to be cut so that you can make ends meet.
Yeah, as I mentioned, many newcomers, students, they are not aware of the services which is offered free of cost by the centers. So can you share how they can access these services like from the Sudbury Community Services Centre?
Well, yeah, and so like you said, we are a charitable not-for-profit not-for-profit organization. So, which means we have very little money to spend on advertising. We have very little money to put out in ads and hiring someone to do social media for us. So we try to do everything very cheaply or free. Our best way of referring is word of mouth. People telling their friends, telling their families, telling their coworkers within those circles that they move, and eventually people hear about us. But we want to make sure that the services we offer are free. The best way to access the service is just to call our center. Call during the weekday and book an appointment. Even ask them, what kind of services do you offer? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Because since we've been in Sudbury for so long, we also have a lot of partnerships with other agencies in the city, and we know about what they offer. So maybe if we can't help, we might know somewhere where you can go to get help. And if we can find it for free, that's definitely something we want to do. So the easiest thing is check out our website, call the center, talk to somebody there. It doesn't cost anything. We're happy to talk to you for free, and we can help solve a lot of solutions, sometimes right over the phone, with just a simple 30-minute conversation.
Oh, that's amazing. So you recently launched the Desjardins micro loan program, offering zero interest loans to help those in financial emergency. Could you please explain how this program works and who is eligible to benefit from it?
So right now the eligibility is very vague. Okay, there's no income cap per se,
Okay.
but the first step is to come into our office and sit down and have a conversation with one of the counselors that are there, myself or one of the other counselors, about what's going on and why you need financial help to purchase some kind of emergency. Maybe you need a new fridge. Maybe you need a new washing machine or a dryer. Maybe you need emergency repairs to your vehicle to get to work. There's all kinds of things that we can help you with. The idea of the loan is to put or get people to move away from very high interest loans like payday loans and stuff like that, where people are spending almost criminal interest on these loans. We can help get you a loan with Desjardins and Caisse Populaire for zero interest over a repayment of 1 to 2 years. So it's a manageable loan that's not going to skyrocket out of control, and the payments will be something that the people on low income can afford. So there are some stipulations. Number one, you can't be making $200,000 a year and qualify for this loan. This is for people who are in financial difficulty and facing a financial emergency. And then the second thing is you have to be a member of the Desjardins Caisse Populaire, of that bank, of that credit union. And it's very easy to become a member. We'll help you become a member with the bank. But the idea is you have to open an account at that bank so that your loan payments can come out of that account. And then at that point, they would front you the money and talk about repayment terms and set up a repayment. And I think the loan goes to a maximum of $2,000. So it's a small loan. It's not a huge loan. You couldn't buy a house with that or a car, but definitely a fridge or some emergency repairs to a vehicle or something like that.
Wow, amazing. So I already talked about this, like for newcomers, immigrants, and international students, moving to Canada means starting from scratch. Everything is unfamiliar. New country, new people, new system, and completely different environment navigating finances. Especially taxes can feel overwhelming, Like filing taxes isn't just a legal obligation, but key to accessing essential benefits. So when should they file the taxes, and what documents are required to get started?
All right. So first of all, the documents that are required. We need 4 things to do your taxes. We need your name, we need your birthday, we need your address, you have to have an address, and we need your social insurance number. With those 4 things, you can file taxes in Canada. Okay. The second thing to know is the magic date of December 31st. Where were you living on December 31st? And if you were living in Canada as an international student, as a refugee, as an immigrant or newcomer, or if you were born in Canada, if you were 18 years old on December 31st of that year, you should be filing taxes for that year. Okay, and you were living in Canada. So for instance, if you came to Canada last year in 2023 on December 28th, you should file 2023 taxes. Now, there probably will be no income. You probably didn't pay enough rent in 2 or 3 days to claim rent, but you can still access your GST, your Trillium, and your carbon tax benefits to get some of that money started. It's also the gateway to accessing a lot of other government programs. So for instance, if you couldn't find work and you needed money to buy food or pay your rent, you could apply to Ontario Works. Well, your taxes have to be up to date to do that. Or if you got disabled or hurt yourself on the job and eventually had to end up on a disability pension, your taxes have to be up to date to do that. If you're 65 years of old and you've worked in Canada and you want to apply for Canada Pension, your taxes have to be up to date for that. So taxes is very important to keep up to date. And also, when the government puts out a new program, if they're going to give out money for low-income people to buy food or other benefits that they had when COVID came and they offered benefits to people, your taxes have to be up to date to qualify for those benefits. So taxes is very important to keep up to date. Now, I routinely see people who fall behind, and that's what we're there to do also, is to help them catch up so that they can get back up to date. But it's very important to have those four things. We must have those. And after that, it's a conversation between us and the person about, did you pay rent? Do you own a house? Did you pay property taxes? And there's also a lot of questions that we have to ask about, do you have children? Because that can change things. Are you married? Is your spouse not in Canada? We still have to tell Canada that you're married and that your spouse is not here, so that when you try to bring your spouse to Canada, they already know you're married. They already know you have a spouse in another country. So it's the gateway to opening a lot of doors for other government programs that are out there.
All right. If you have to specify, what are the benefits of filing taxes for the first time in Canada, and how can it help the newcomers, immigrants, students access government benefits?
Yeah, so filing taxes for the first time in Canada is a little bit different because the government wants to know other things that they don't want to know the second, third, or 100th time you file taxes. What we call world income. Okay. So your benefits, your GST, your Trillium, those things are based on your income. So when you come to Canada for the first time, you have to declare to the government how much money you made in whatever country you came to Canada from. So if you came to Canada from Nepal, or if you came to Canada from the United States or Europe, we need to know where you came from and how much money you made that year in that country. And we declare that as your world income. Okay, you don't have to pay tax on it. You don't have to worry about that. But the government wants to know how much, so it knows how to calculate the credits that they're going to give you. And then you'll get those credits starting the next year in June. Now, because a lot of people, immigrants, come to Canada and they immigrate into the country in January or February or March, early in the year, that doesn't mean you can't access the GST and the Trillium for the year that you lived here, even though you didn't file taxes. To do that, you have to fill out a special form. I think it's an RC 151. We can help you fill out that form so that even though it's not time for you to file your taxes yet, because let's say you came to Canada in 2024, you can't file those taxes until 2024 is over, next year. But we can start to help you access those benefits now by filling out this other form. And on this other form, we'll also declare your world income so that when it comes time to file your taxes, that part's already done. They already know that part, so it makes the new tax filing much smoother and much easier.
Wow, interesting. So can you please talk about eligibility benefits like the Canada Child Benefits or GST and HST credit?
So GST, HST credit, you just need to be living in Canada and file your taxes. That's the eligibility. It is based on income, so not everybody gets the same amount. If you're making more money, you're going to get less GST. And eventually, when you make enough money, you're not going to get any. It's a credit for low-income individuals.
Okay.
Your Trillium is the same thing, is based on income, and it has another added effect that if you claim rent or property taxes, you can increase your Trillium. So this year, like I said, Trillium was $360 if you didn't claim any rent and you were low income. But by claiming even a little bit of rent, $200 or $300, you could bring that $360 to well over $600 or $700 for the year. So again, it's understanding how the credits are applied for and worked. The child tax benefit is a little bit different. You have to be living in the country for a year before you can apply, okay, depending on your situation. But that's something that we can help you do. Fill out that paperwork so that it's done properly and mailed into the correct address so we can get the process started so that when your children and you are eligible to receive it, the paperwork will already be done and in process, so there will be no delay in getting that benefit. And that benefit can be huge for your family. It's meant to help feed the kids and clothe them and get them ready for school and pay for the added costs of having more people living in your home. So it's important to get that credit. But you do have to be in the country for at least 12 months before the credit is available for your children.
Okay, so one of the first essential, first and the foremost step is opening a bank account, which can feel confusing when you are unfamiliar with the Canadian banking process. So without bank account, managing finances becomes even harder. So what is the process for opening a bank account as a newcomer or international student, and what documents do they need?
So again, opening a bank account is very easy. Like, as long as you have ID, you have to have ID. So a passport, a birth certificate, social insurance number, you need to have that. So when you come to Canada, you're going to get a social insurance number. These three things, ID and a social insurance number, and more than one kind of ID. Have a birth certificate, have your passport, your immigration papers, your student visa, your work visa, something like that that shows you are who you say you are. And then you open your bank account. What's really important to understand about opening a bank account is that if you open a bank account at one bank, that doesn't mean you can't open an account at another bank too. Or even close the original account and move everything to a new bank. When you choose a bank account, you should choose a bank that you're comfortable with, that you want to do business with, because likely, statistically, whatever bank account you have, that's the bank you're going to get your mortgage from, and probably your line of credit from, and an overdraft, maybe even a car loan. So you want to have a good relationship with this bank. And don't be shy or don't feel ashamed to say, I'm not going to stay with this bank, I'm going to go to another bank. But it should be very easy. With the proper ID and a SIN number, a social insurance number, it should be simple to open a bank account. Now, every bank account comes with fees. You have to pay to have a bank account, but investigate the fees. There are different packages that you can get that offer different benefits and different perks to what you can do. Some bank accounts will allow you to write checks. Is writing checks something you're going to do? Not many people write checks anymore. Are you going to use debit a lot? If you're going to use a lot of debit transactions, then you should look at getting something that has unlimited debit rather than charging you per transaction. And if you're a student, make sure you tell them that. Show them your student ID, because those fees are often significantly reduced for students while they're in school to help them save money. But it should be very simple to get a bank account as long as you have the proper identification and your social insurance number.
So if you have to suggest one of the best bank to the newcomer student who have just arrived in for the fall intake in September, what would be the best bank to open an account, and what type of account?
Yeah, so the best bank, I don't think I can speak to that. I think you should go with your gut. Okay, if you walk into the bank and you don't feel welcomed, you don't feel like you want to do business there, don't do it there. Wow. Pick a bank that's easy for you to get to, so that if you ever have to go into the bank, it's not across town or somewhere inaccessible to you. Make it somewhere that it's easy to get to and that you feel welcomed, you feel like you're a person in their bank that they care about and they want to deal with. What kind of bank account to open? I think realistically your first bank account should be a checking account. Okay, that's the account that's going to have the most activity on it. It's going to have the best fees for the services you want. You may also want to open a savings account, a bank where you can put money aside for emergencies, save some money, and then have two separate accounts. Those are really the only two bank accounts that you can get, savings and checking. Checking, yeah. There are different accounts if you want to get into investing in the stock market yourself and stuff like that. They'll help you open other accounts. But for your everyday personal use, a checking account and a savings account are the two main that you can get. And all the banks in Canada are regulated by the government. They're insured by the government. So the banks, if they do go bankrupt, which has never happened in Canada, your money is insured. You're not going to lose all your money. And I think you're insured, well, it's over $100,000, probably way more than that. So if the bank goes under, if they do go bankrupt, you're guaranteed to get that money back from the government. Nice. It's not like a bank in the United States that's privately owned, that if it goes bankrupt, you could lose everything. In Canada, the banking system is much more secure.
So for immigrants, establishing credit in Canada is crucial for achieving financial independence. So how can immigrants and international students build credit in Canada, and what are the best practice for using credit responsibly?
All right, so that's a great question. Building credit in Canada is relatively easy once you start. But starting out is very difficult.
That's right.
And when you first start out, you're going to get the response from a lot of people. It's not that you have bad credit, it's that you have no credit. So you have to begin somewhere. Your credit score is your reputation to a lender. That's what tells the lenders, the banks, and the credit card companies, are you a safe person to lend money to? So the better your score is, the higher your score, the better your reputation is to the lenders out there who want to lend you money. So if you want to get a car or a house or a cell phone, that's going to decide if you can do that. Way back in the 50s and 60s, if you wanted to get a house loan, a mortgage, you would go to the bank and the bank would say, oh, I know you, Arjun, and I know your dad, and I know your wife, and you've lived here for this long, and you work there. I know you, so you're a safe person to lend money to. Yes, we're going to lend you money. But those days are long gone. Now you're just a number to the bank. And the computers decide, are we going to give this person credit? And that's where your credit score comes in. So there's different factors that affect your score and that you can help improve your score. What you want to do, first of all, is secure a form of credit. Some kind of credit, and begin using it. And in Canada, probably the easiest form of credit to get is a credit card. Okay. So getting your first credit card is your first step to establishing credit. Once you have a credit card, then you have to use it. Because if you have a credit card and you don't use it, you're not building any history. Mm-hmm. You're not building any reputation. So the idea is to use your credit card. As long as you're using the credit card, you're building positive history, and your number is growing, and it's increasing. Mm-hmm. Okay? Some key things to remember when you're using credit is don't be late on a payment. So if your payment is due on September 22nd, make sure your payment is made on September 22nd or sooner. Mm-hmm. Another thing that affects your credit is how much debt are you carrying. So for instance, and that not just how much debt are you carrying, but how much debt are you carrying in relationship to how much could you carry. So the maximum amount that you could owe. So let's say you had a credit card and it had a limit on it of $5,000, but you only owed $100 on that credit card. Well, your debt limit, your debt ratio would be very low. That's good for your credit. But if you had a credit card with a $5,000 limit and you owed $5,000 on it, then your debt ratio is very high, and that's bad for your credit score. So we want to keep how much debt you have to a minimum, as small as possible. Now, some things, when you buy, you're going to have a balance on it until it's paid off. Your mortgage is always going to have a balance until you're done paying it. Your car loan's always going to have a balance until you're done paying it. You can't avoid that. Those things are okay. But a credit card, you can pay that off every month in full and keep it paid off. So we want to show that you're using credit, that you're using it at least once a week, a couple of times a week, but that you're paying it off so you're not carrying a balance. All right. The next thing that's going to increase your credit score is how long have you been using credit? And that's where newcomers or new people to credit, like say they're 18 years old getting their first credit for the first time, this is where there's nothing they can do. But the longer you have credit and use it, the better it is for you. So getting it sooner in life will benefit you in the long run. The next thing is having a mix of credit. And what that means is having different kinds of credit that you're using effectively. So if you have a credit card, that's one kind of credit. But if you have a credit card and a cell phone payment, that's two kinds. Mm-hmm. If you have a credit card and a cell phone and a car loan, that's three kinds. So having different kinds. If you have 3 credit cards, that's still only one kind, credit cards. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that you have different kinds of credit and that you're using them properly and effectively. And then the final thing is credit checks, having somebody check your credit. The more often you have somebody else check your credit for the purpose of lending you money, the worse your score is going to be temporarily. Mm-hmm. And the reason for this is they don't want people who are out seeking credit, looking to accumulate as much credit as possible, because that worries the computer. That says, why are they trying to get so much money so quickly? And then it brings their score down so that they're not going to get in too much trouble too quickly. So when somebody says, can we check your credit? Say you're going to apply for a credit card, can we check your credit? Make sure that's the credit card you want. Don't just let every credit card check your credit, because then your score will be so bad, no one's going to want to give you credit anyway. So your score is your reputation. Now scores start at 300 and they go to 900. 300 is the worst, 900 is the best. Anything over 760, 750, you've got excellent credit. Your reputation is very good. So making sure that you pay your bills on time, that you're using your credit effectively, and that you're building a history with your credit score is going to maximize that score and give you the best possibility to get the credit you're looking for.
So, what are the risks of misusing credit, and how can newcomers and low-income individuals avoid like falling into debt?
Yeah, so debt is very difficult to avoid. Things that we want to do or that we need to do can be very expensive. School, very expensive. Buying a house, very expensive. A car, very expensive. And these are all things that people want to do in their life. So we're going to have to rely on our credit. But it's the little things that we're spending credit on, or we're spending on credit, that we don't necessarily need that start to get us into trouble. Using credit is fine as long as you're paying it back. There's no risk there of carrying a debt or getting out of control. But when you start using your credit for everything and you're not paying it back and you're not able to pay it in full, and there doesn't look like there's ever going to be a time when you can pay it in full, now you're getting into trouble. I tell people I have a golden rule when it comes to credit cards and spending. If whatever you're going to buy on the credit card, if it's used up, gone, or broken before you have a chance to pay that credit card off, you're getting into trouble. You're using the credit card for the wrong reason. So if you're having to buy food on your credit card and it takes you a year to pay that credit card off, that's a bad use of the credit card. You're getting into trouble. Come and see somebody like us so we can help figure out what's going on. Why are you using credit to buy food? Is there something else happening that we can help you with? If you're buying a bus pass on a credit card, or a taxi ride, or a tank of gas for your car, and it takes you 6 months to pay that off, that's a bad use of the credit card. You're getting into trouble. You should have nothing on your credit card that's going to be gone before you can pay it off. But if you had to buy a new washing machine and it took you a year to pay it off, the washing machine would still be yours. It would still be working. You'd still be using it. That would be an acceptable use of the credit card. The idea of using credit is paying it off as fast as possible. And if you find yourself month to month to month not being able to pay off your credit card, that is a sure sign you're getting into trouble, and that you should see somebody about what's happening. Why am I in trouble? What's changed? That's and using credit now is you can tap your card. You don't have to put it in and punch a code. You just tap. You get a coffee, you tap. You get lunch, you tap. You go to the store to buy groceries, you tap. When we're tapping, we're not keeping track of how much we're spending. We're losing track of what we're really spending because it doesn't feel like real money. When you have cash in your hand and you slide off, 20, 40, 60, 80, that feels, there's impact there. You actually see that you're spending money. But when you're just tapping on your credit card, you won't know what the spending is like unless you log into your bank account, or you get the statement sent to you in the mail at the end of the month, and then you start to realize the trouble you might be in.
Yeah.
So tapping everything on the credit card can be very dangerous because you're not aware of how much you're spending. So be aware of what you're spending. And that's why I believe in cash. I understand walking around with a lot of cash is not ideal for a lot of people, and having a credit card is much more safe and secure. So what I tell people is when you tap your credit card all day long, when you get home at night, look at your credit card. How much did you spend today? And if you can, pay it off right away that day before it starts to carry over from month to month to month.
The best way to avoid all the dangers is pay on time.
Yes.
And keep on recording the expenses and how much you spend
Exactly.
every day.
Exactly. We tell people, when you're running a budget and you start using credit and you're buying stuff, you have to identify, are these wants or are these needs? Do you need this or do you just want it? Because very often the wants are the things that get us into trouble. I want a new computer. I want a new gaming system. I want new clothes or new tools. But do you need those? Is that something you absolutely need, or can you do without those, or can you change the want so it's not as expensive? Having a lot of wants and catering to those wants and giving into those wants starts to get people into trouble.
That's right. You should know about your wants and needs. All right, moving ahead, what are the tuition tax credits and how can international students benefit from them when filing their taxes?
So when you pay tuition in Canada, the government allows you to claim your tuition as a tuition credit. And when you start working, when you graduate school and you start working, you can apply those credits to a maximum every year toward the income tax that you pay. So when you get a job, you have to pay income tax to Canada. The income tax goes to pay for hospitals and firemen and police and fix the roads and plow the streets and stuff like that, making the country run, right? Paying health care and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when you have tuition credits and you're no longer in school, you can start to apply those tuition credits toward your income taxes to help get some of those taxes back. So it's a credit that the government allows you for spending all that money on school that you can apply to get more money back once you graduate and start working. The nice thing about those tuition credits is they can carry over forever. They're never going to go away. You don't have to use them before a certain time. There is a maximum you can use every year, and it changes every year. It goes up, but use the maximum, and then whatever you don't use, carry over to the next year and use that maximum so that you're getting more money back. Now, you won't get back as much money as you spent on tuition. It's not a dollar for dollar credit, but it is some money back, and it can be pretty significant for some people, depending on their tax situation, to get more money back. And the idea there is the money that you get back in your taxes for your tuition credits, you can use that to pay off any loans that you have that you use for school. If you had a student loan, start paying those student loans back with the tax money that you're getting back. But the key to remember is you can't use those credits while you're in school. You have to wait until you're working and you're graduating.
Okay. All right. So I have another one. What should a low-income individual do if they are struggling with debt in Canada, and what options are available for managing or reducing it?
So managing debt is all about understanding how much debt you have and how much income you have. And that's where we come in, helping you analyze that situation, looking at your budget and coming up with a plan to reduce your costs so that you can manage the debt. But there are some times when the debt is so overwhelming, you don't have enough money to pay the debt. And at that point, there are programs out there that we can help you, that guide you through to understand what they are. There are not-for-profit credit counseling programs where they can help reduce the interest on what you owe and reduce the payment so that you can pay those debts off in a timely manner. You could look at bankruptcy or a consumer proposal with a bankruptcy trustee if you are in that deep of debt with no sign of getting out. You can offer settlements to the people you owe, saying, I can't pay you back the full amount, but I can offer you a portion of the money and we'll just call it even. So there are a number of things out there. It's all about exploring your options and understanding what the implications of each option are so that you can make an educated and informed decision. But really, the first step is to go and see, wherever you are, a not-for-profit charitable organization who's not going to charge you money for advice and who's going to explore every option with you for free. The idea there is, because they're not making any money, when someone comes to see me, I don't get paid, so I'm going to give you the best advice that I can give you, and we're going to explore every option so that you can make the best choice that's best for you and not what's best for me.
So if you have to say, what is the best way to create a budget that fits the income, someone's income, individual income, expenses and cost of living in Canada?
The best way to start a budget is, first of all, understand how much you make. What's your income, your net income? How much do you take home every month? And then you need to get a handle and an understanding of how much you're actually spending. So for instance, how much rent, how much food, how much is your cell phone, how about insurance, what about a car? Do you have a credit card payment that you have to make? Medicine, all the different things that your life demands. And your life is different than my life and different than somebody else's life. So you need to take stock of that life. What we like to have people do is, at the beginning of the month, on the first day of the month, get a book, and every time you spend money, no matter how small or how little you spend, write it down. And write down what it was. Okay, there's a couple of things to remind yourself when you're doing this. When you're tracking your spending, and that's what we call it tracking spending, you have to be honest. But be honest with yourself. So if you're going to buy a pack of cigarettes every day, write that down. Even though it can be a very expensive habit and you maybe don't want to accept how expensive it is, it's important to be honest with yourself and write it down so that you understand. And number two, be specific. Don't be vague when you're writing your tracking down. Don't write down things like Walmart, $150. Well, what was it at Walmart? Was it medicine? Was it food? Was it clothes? Was it a gift? Because it's very important to know, because if it was a gift, then we can probably assume that you're not going to spend $150 every month on a gift. But if it was food, then we can really safely assume that you're going to spend at least that much every month on food. So it's important to understand where the spending is. The easiest way to do that is while you go through your day spending money, get receipts from everybody for whatever you spend money on. And then take 10 or 15 minutes at night, every night, go through your receipts and track your spending. Write down how much you spent in all the different areas. And then at the end of the month, add up all your spending and subtract that from your income and see where you are. If you have money left over, you're doing great. You're on track with your budget. You have money that you can start to make a savings account with or start paying off debt. But if you're spending more than you make, that's a sure sign you're getting into trouble. And that trouble's only going to compound itself and grow if you don't get an understanding of what's happening.
Almost at the end, this one is a most asked question. How do I save and plan for emergencies in case I lose my job or face unexpected incident like death, disability, or critical illness?
If you face a loss of a job or you get sick, critically ill, something like that, the debts don't go away. The payments still have to be made. Now, some debts may have insurances attached to them that you have to look into to see if maybe they will cover the payments while you're sick or while you're off work. But that's something very specific to those debts. You would have to ask the people that you owe the money to, the credit card, the bank, do I have insurance here like that? Am I paying for something like that? Ultimately, the best way to plan for the unexpected is to just have an emergency fund, a savings account, where you have money waiting for emergencies. That money is not to buy groceries. It's not to buy a new car. It's not to take a trip to Mexico. It is for emergencies so that if I lose my job, I can still pay my rent and still buy food and still pay the bills I have to pay. And the whole idea there is when you're doing your budget, when you're figuring out how much you want to spend in all the different areas of your life, pay yourself first. Pay your emergency fund, your savings first, before you go to the movies, before you go out for dinner, before you go and buy a present for your neighbor. Pay yourself first. Build your savings account. The experts say that you should have 3 months of bills saved in an emergency. Most people I know don't have that. But I think realistically, if you could get a month or 2 months savings so that your rent, your food, your utilities, your cell phone, your car loan, everything you have to pay is saved, in 2 months you'll figure out what you're going to do. So if you lose a job, by the end of 2 months you'll have another job somewhere else. If you get sick, hopefully in 2 months that'll resolve itself and you'll know exactly what you're going to do. Having a savings account is crucial. Having an emergency account is crucial for the unexpected, because you can't plan for getting critically ill. You never know when that's going to happen. So just having an emergency fund for the unexpected, whatever happens, is the best way to do that. And then, of course, knowing that there's a service like ours so that if that emergency fund runs out and you're still in trouble, come to see us so we can look at other options to reduce debt, to reduce your payments, and explore those options with you to help guide you through that process.
Thank you so much. Almost at the end, I have one more question. What steps should I take to avoid financial scams targeting newcomers and international students here in Canada?
So the best advice I can give you for that is if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Okay? Nobody gives away anything for free.
That's right.
Everybody who gives stuff away, they're looking to make money on this. If they lend you money, it's because they want to charge you interest and make money, okay? As Canadian consumers, whether you're a newcomer, an immigrant, or you were born here, your right is to understand whatever contract, whatever sales agreement you're getting into. And they have to explain it to you in what they call plain language, language you understand. So ask a lot of questions. What happens if I don't pay? What happens if I pay early? What happens if the thing I'm paying for breaks? What kind of warranty is on this? And ask the question when they say, oh, your payment is only going to be $60 a month for whatever it is you want to buy. That's okay. I can afford that payment. But how long am I making that payment? How many payments do I have to make? Because if it's $60 a month for 2 years, that's better than $60 a month for 15 years. So understand the true cost of borrowing. Scams are everywhere. They're ever evolving. They're always changing. It's important to know that most times people will not text you and say, we want money. and they will never accept payment as a gift card or as a wire transfer. They want, if somebody wants a payment, they want it done through an e-transfer through a bank. Never pay anything cash, like your rent or a car payment or something like that. Have some kind of paper trail. Do an e-transfer through your bank so that there's a confirmation number and you can show that the payment was made. And if there is a scam and they ask you, call this number, they text you or the email, call this number, don't use the number that they send you. Get on the internet, look up that company's real number and call them yourself, not on the phone call that you are answering. Hang up, call them back through the official channels and say, hey, somebody from there just called about whatever. Is this true? Another great resource to use is to call the police station, call the information line and ask them, is this a scam? I got this email, I got this text message, I got this phone call. Is this a scam? They're up on all the different scams that are going on out there. And also look at the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, the FCAC, which I'll send you the link tomorrow. They have a great database on different scams there, plus a whole host of other really great information on all things financial in Canada. But the best rule is if it's too good to be true, it is.
Thank you so much for your wonderful insights and for your time.
Well, thank you. It was great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.